guys, so today I'm going to be doing a bit more of a serious video because this week is National Eating Disorder Awareness Week and I've never spoken about it on here before. I've been fairly open with it on my blog. I find it easier to write about it rather than talk about it, but I wanted to open up about my experience with anorexia on here because not everyone who watches my videos will read my blog, and I want to try and reach out to a bigger audience about this because I really want to try and help others and hopefully help to get rid of the stigma surrounding eating disorders. So hopefully this video will help some of you guys. This is my recovery story, recovery journey, eating disorder story, whatever you want to call it. Growing up, I never had any problem with food. I ate whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted. I was never a fussy eater. I was never overweight. I was never the slimmest, but I was never overweight. And all through high school it was much of the same. It wasn't until I was in my final year of high school that I kind of made the decision to make healthier choices with what I was eating. I didn't want to go on a diet. That was never the plan. I didn't want to cut out on a lot of the foods I was eating. I didn't want to stop eating pizza or ice cream or chocolate or anything like that. I just wanted to make healthier choices now and then. For example, at lunch, instead of having chips, have a sandwich. That kind of thing. And for the most part, it worked, you know. I still had pizza every Friday, drank cans of energy juice. There's not a specific moment that I can say this is when it all went downhill, because it was a very gradual process. Alarm bells first started to ring when I was on holiday that year. So this was in 2013, just after I'd left school, and I wanted to go swimming. Years ago, I decided to stop going swimming just because of body image issues, and that's for another time. But I decided that this year I would just bite the bullet, body confidence and all, decided that I was going to go swimming. And the only thing that was worrying me wasn't my body image or anything. It was the fact that I hadn't had my period. So I was like, oh my god, right guys, if I go swimming, I'm having visions. I told my mum my worries. She did mention that it was probably because I wasn't eating as much. So she had noticed that my eating habits had changed slightly. Not drastically at this point, but they had changed. I tried not to think about it. I went swimming, it was fine. That week, no period. That month, no period, which was odd for me because I first got my period when I was 13 or 14 and I never had a problem with it being irregular or anything like that, so it was really strange. But I didn't think anything of it. I was just like, let's push it aside, you know, strange month. And I thought it was because in August it came back. But that was the last time that I had it, August 2013. I was obviously not eating enough. The eating disorder wasn't as dominant as it was going to be very soon, but it was definitely there because that is one of the side effects of having an eating disorder, is the loss of your period. I started college. When I first left school, I studied childcare, and during that course, my time on that course, that was the time that I was eating the least. I never used to eat breakfast, which is weird because I'm such a breakfast person now, but so I kind of didn't really eat breakfast. And then I started eating breakfast halfway through that year, but it would only be Weetabix with a little bit of milk, or I may have had like a banana or something. And then I wouldn't have any snacks. I stopped eating snacks. I would have my lunch, but it would be a sandwich with that wafer thin chicken stuff. And I remember I would feel really uncomfortable if it was any more than 2 pieces of that chicken. Now that stuff is really quite thin, and so you probably need like 5 slices, 6 slices maybe, to make it decent. My mum would make the sandwich for me, and I remember just like taking some of the meat out. Sometimes I would have like a piece of fruit or a pack of Snacker Jacks after my sandwich, but I would feel guilty over it, so it wasn't a regular occurrence. And then my dinner, and I wouldn't have dessert, and I wouldn't have anything in the evenings. It could have been a lot worse. I know some people, you know, during their worst days have like an apple a day, but I mean, it was still restricting a lot. In the beginning, my dinners didn't change. I would still eat whatever my family were eating, but slowly they did begin to change. And there was a stage where I was only really eating 4 meals. I think there was like 4 different meals that I would have for dinner. And also at this point, I started playing the Wii Fit. I've never loved exercise. I always hated exercise. I've hated sports ever since I was little. We just do not mix. So going to the gym or over-exercising was never a real problem for me, like it is with some. But I did start to go on the Wii Fit. I did do like the jogging on it. It sounds so lame, but I did the jogging on it, a few other activities that did, you know, I was burning some calories. I also did this test on it that you could see your BMI, and slowly my BMI was going down. I never weighed myself religiously, but my BMI was going down. We was in the lounge, so my mum could see it when she was there, and she was obviously becoming aware of my weight loss. At this time, I suspected that something was wrong. I did probably the worst thing you could do and Googled it, and I highly suspected that I had an eating disorder. And yeah, I didn't say anything to my parents. I brought it up. I'm pretty sure I brought it up with one of my best friends, but other than that, I didn't say anything. I had tried myself to pull myself out of it, but obviously with a mental illness, it's pretty much impossible to do it on your own. It wasn't until the end of 2013, my mum wanted to try to get me to eat more, at least. And this is what I like to refer to as the full fat yogurt incident. She bought me, I don't like saying full fat yogurt, a normal yogurt, and I wouldn't touch them. I wouldn't eat them. I just was like, no. I didn't even think about eating them. And I had said something along the lines of, you know, even if I do eat one, it's not going to help me. After I said that, she was like, right, I'm taking you to the doctors. And I didn't kick up a fuss. I didn't even, you know, try to protest, because at this point I was like, yeah, I need help. Because even though I was lucky enough that I never had to go inpatient, I was never put out of education, my education never suffered, like my studies at college never suffered. I still walked away from that course with an A in the higher, so you know, it could have been a lot worse. But I definitely was like, no, I don't want to live this way. I was just exhausted all the time. And so 2014 came, and I went to the doctors in January, I think. And apologies if you can hear them talking. Shut up. And he referred me on to my therapist. If you have experience with mental illness, you will know that waiting lists are a bitch. I saw the doctor in January, and I didn't have my first appointment until like April, May time. Those first few months of therapy, we kind of dug around, got to the root of why I had maybe developed the disorder in the first place, and slowly started introducing snacks and things, and just varying my diet up. But then there was a period of time where I became stuck. I was stuck in this limbo, if you will. Basically, I wasn't losing weight, but I wasn't gaining it either, and I was still underweight at this point. This was the time that I felt the most like I just wanted to give up. This was the time where I was the most mentally drained and the most mentally ill. I was eating a bit more than I had been, but mentally I was just so done. I was just existing. I wasn't living my life. At this point, I was religiously like counting nutritional values, and I never really counted calories as such. I would always like count up like the fat and the carbs and sugar and all of that, and I was basically spending the majority of my day using the MyFitnessPal app, which is a terrible app and shouldn't even exist. I don't care, it shouldn't exist. And if you are using it and have an eating disorder or trying to recover, delete it. You will not be able to recover with that app. And basically my day was just filled with the same thoughts about food, planning what I was going to eat, thinking about what I had eaten. At one point I found myself like on Sainsbury's website looking at food, and there's honestly nothing worse than being so obsessed with something and not being able to kind of do anything about it. Like, I was so obsessed with food. I was looking at food all the time, thinking about it, but I felt as if I couldn't eat it. I wasn't allowed to eat that pizza that looks so amazing and that the rest of my family are eating, but I feel like I can't eat it. It's so draining, and honestly, it just consumes your whole day, week, month. You lose your personality, you lose your interests. I had to force myself to listen to music. Listen to music. You put music on in the background when you're doing stuff. Like, the December of that year was when I had my first appointment with my dietitian, and it was also the month that I had my first and only appointment with the actual eating disorder services, which are ridiculous. They are atrocious, through my experience anyway. That is a rant for another video. 2014 was also the year that I joined the recovery community on Instagram. I think I joined in like October time. For me, joining that community helped a lot. I put down my progress to my therapist and my dietitian, and also that recovery account, because up until then I felt so alone. I didn't know anyone else that had an eating disorder. I didn't know, you know, if what I was feeling was legit. Yeah, my therapist may have been saying that it was perfectly normal, but if she's never had an eating disorder, how's she gonna know? You know what I mean? And it was nice to go have a place where you're surrounded by people who know what you're going through, are going through a similar thing. And it was through that I was able to challenge myself a bit more and eat these foods that I thought of as so scary. I was seeing people, you know, eating pizza. Just having that support system was great, and realizing that you're not alone in this. So yeah, 2014, my worst year mentally. 2015, last year, this was the year that I really just threw myself into recovery. And I see 2015 as the year of recovery. I slowly started to pick up the pace again. The limbo that I had been in, I don't know how I got out of it. I think with the help of the community on Instagram and just kind of realizing that I just needed to do it and just be like, stop being a pussy, Elijah, just fucking do it. Sorry, that was a bit like in your face. But I began to pick up the pace again. I began to slowly, steadily start putting on weight again, challenging myself more, and the more that I did it, the more that I started to kind of gain weight, and the more that I started to eat foods that I saw as scary, the easier it became. And then in September, October time of 2015, I finally reached a healthy weight. I was a healthy BMI for the first time in about like 2 years. Yeah, with that came anxiety. There was definitely the voice in me that went, oh, now that you're a healthy weight, you don't have to gain any more weight. But when you reach that healthy weight range, I was just sitting on it. So that wasn't my body's set point, and that won't be most people's set point. Your body has a natural weight that it sits at, and it won't be able to function properly unless it's at that set point. So I still had weight to gain, but you know, I had overcame that hurdle of, you know, getting to that stage of being a healthy weight. Towards the end of 2015, my appointments with my dietitian have always just been once a month, but my therapy appointments became fewer and they were more spaced out. A few weeks ago, I had my last appointment with my therapist, and I've just got one more appointment with my dietitian next week, and then I'm free from those professionals. That was definitely the year that I focused on my mental health and my recovery, and that was the most important thing, nothing else. I think what else helps with recovery is the moments of joy that you have, the brief moments of, you know, you'll catch yourself like not thinking about it for even just a few seconds, or you'll catch yourself laughing so hard that you're crying, and you'll be like, I haven't done this in ages. Like, I still catch myself when I am in hysterics. I will always kind of stop and think and be like, wait, this, like, a year ago, 2 years ago, this wouldn't have happened. And I remember saying to my therapist, it's those moments that kind of motivate me to do it, because, you know, they don't just have to be those short-lived moments, you know, of joy. It doesn't have to be those few seconds. That can be all day, every day. Okay, maybe not all day, every day. If you were hysterically crying with laughter all day, that would be annoying. But you could be happy and not think about it all the time. So, yeah, 2016. Honestly, I'm the happiest that I've ever been. Well, you know, at least in the past few years, for a number of different reasons. But when I think about it, it actually all relates back to my mental health. All these things couldn't be happening in my life. Like, I wouldn't be able to focus on my college work and on my writing. I wouldn't be going out and socializing more, and if I was in the same state of mentality 2 years ago, even a year ago. I'm finally living my life again, which for a long time I didn't think I would, you know, especially during that time where I was stuck in that limbo. The thought of living that way forever, it's quite sad, but I was more scared of living like that for the rest of my life than I was of getting worse and just dying. Interests have returned. My personality's returned. I want to go out and do stuff. I don't just want to sit and think about food. I mean, I love food. You know, I still love food. Don't get me wrong. I still live for the next time that I'm gonna eat. And I still think about it, but it's not like a dominant part of my life. And it's great. It feels so good to not have that anymore. And I've still got a bit to go. I've still got some things that I need to work on. I never thought I'd get to this stage. I applaud you if you got to the end of this video. Well done. And just, if you are going through recovery, if you are kind of losing hope or having a really tough time with it, just keep at it. Keep at it. Because it's worth it. Trust me. And it'll be hard. I'm not denying it. It's the hardest thing that you will ever do. Stick with it. Take each day at a time. Surround yourself with people who will help and support you. Like, if you haven't yet, take that first step and get help. Yeah, I believe you guys can do it. Because if I can do it, you can do it. I will be back next week with a much more upbeat and light-hearted video, I promise. I will see you next time. Bye, bye, bye.